1.7 million students are in schools with CAPS, but no counselors. That is a lot of kids going through the school system with no guidance or support from anybody. They may have parents at home, guardians, they have their teachers at school, but they may not have that one specific person at the school that they need to help guide them in the right direction they need to be going. I'm here today to tell you why you should have mandatory monthly school counseling sessions. That means that I believe that the schools that do have counselors, it should be mandatory for every single student in that school to go see their counselor at least once a month. I feel like that will benefit them by checking in, and that will help the counselor to get to know each student and to kind of be aware if they are having any troubles or problems in the school. I'm going to go over benefits of having a school counselor, the behaviors that are addressed by the school counselor that the kids may be having, and then some of the setbacks that the counselors go through with trying to maintain counseling in the school system. I found this article by the American School Counselor Association, and they stated that students have greater access to school counselors and comprehensive school counseling programs are more likely to succeed academically and behaviorally in school. This is particularly true for students in high poverty schools. So the students that have more access to student counselors tend to have better outcomes later in life, whether that be with graduating, going on to college, holding a job, having a good family life, any of those things. There's also an article written in 2012, Perceptions of School Counselors, and that explains that numerous manuscripts have outlined best practices for notifying parents or guardians of behaviors that may be considered as potentially causing clear and foreseeable harm. So counselors are kind of the first stop for those students to notice if they're going through anything that needs to be addressed. That's why it's very important to have them. There's been studies that shows that kids that see student counselors, it cuts down on smoking, drug use, drinking alcohol, any unsafe behaviors they may be participating in, whether they're skipping class, cheating on tests, cheating on assignments, skipping school, or completely stop going to school. That has all been cut down quite a bit in schools that have school counselors. And then some of the reasons for the behaviors that students go through, they could have a hard home life. Maybe their parents are divorced, they have to go from home to home. In bigger cities, there's kids that are homeless, so they may be going to school, and then when they leave, they go to a shelter, they don't go home. And not all teachers know that that's going on. They have big classrooms, they may not be able to notice that type of stuff. So even that checking in once a month with a counselor, that's things that they can find out about and kind of create a support group for the students that are going through troubled times. Kids that are going through social isolation, they can pick up on that. And then bullying is a big thing that happens in schools nowadays. And whether the students are being bullied or they are the bulliers, that can be addressed also with a student counselor. There's a study from Bullying in Young Adolescents in 2017, and they suggest that 20 to 30% of students are frequently involved in bullying as either the perpetrator or the victim. And they say that if they're both, that's the student that's going to be at highest risk for problems later on in life. Counselors are there to provide support for the kids. They could have questionnaires or surveys that the students can come do. Not all students may feel comfortable going and talking to a school counselor. So even just that once a month checking in and filling out those questionnaires can kind of help the counselor see where that student is at. And if there is any red flags, they can kind of talk to the teachers, talk to the guardians, parents, whoever's at their home. They can report things to them. A lot of schools have parent-teacher conferences or student conferences. That's a good time where the counselor could step in and address anything that they've noticed in those monthly visits that may need to be talked about. And then there's also a study I found that all 50 states have adopted the zero tolerance policy for students with aggressive behavior. So that's a really good time when they can find out if the student is having any thoughts of harm towards themselves or to others. They can also find out from other students if another student is being aggressive. Maybe people don't notice it, the teachers don't notice it, the sports coaches don't notice it. That's kind of a good way to kind of dig deeper into what's going on in the schools. And then I have just kind of a graph of all the things that student counselors provide. They're there to empower, they're there to help with achievement, to help change the child's path, help manage their emotions, their goals, anything that they have going on in their life. During grade school and elementary, that's a lot of growing and changing for kids, and they have trouble with everyday life as it is, just a lot of new experiences and trying to balance those and other things that can be going on. Just a student counselor can help them manage all of those problems. There was a survey that was out, and they asked all the school counselors how they felt with their jobs, and a lot of them reported that they weren't supported by the school administration. School administrations don't think that it's necessary to have student counselors, and they're giving them other tasks on top of the jobs they're supposed to have, which is taking away from the things that they need to be doing with the students. So not only do I think that we need to have more mandatory meetings with these school counselors, I think that more schools need to incorporate the school counselors into their system so that these kids can have more support and a better outlook for their future.